All right. So last thing. So we can get out of here. I want to talk about Twitch, y'all, because I feel like I'm gonna be on the wrong side of history with this one and feel like
Don't
if
say the wrong side.
because I feel, that's what I feel like it is though, girl. I feel like they making us feel like, they making me feel like I'm on the wrong side of history with this shit because I feel like, yes, I understand how everybody feel, but I think there are different rules for famous people. I do. I think that in real life, if somebody is not famous, you don't put their business out there. But if they was already somebody that was on social media showing their life, and I need to be able to make money after this nigga unalived himself and left me with 2 children under the age of 10, I'm probably mad. I'm probably trying to make sense of things, and I come out with a book talking about it and talking about what I found in his diary, and how that might have affected his psyche and that he was coping by using a whole bunch of drugs I didn't know he had in here. Um, but it's okay. I'm just trying to use his story to help somebody, bitch, and get me a little check while I'm doing it. Um, for everybody to take it to this level of to the point where they're like low key accusing her of having something to do with his passing, I think people are doing too much. I think people doing too much. Uh, I think y'all low key trying to bully the daughter. Like it's a lot going on. To me. But yeah, that's my take on what y'all thinking about this.
I definitely think people need to get off that daughter's page for sure. I went over to her page the other day, and I think she needs to get off her own page, honestly, because I went over to her page yesterday and people left comments from 4 days ago, and she started responding to those people from 4 days ago. It was like 4 hours. I was like, so they put this up 4 days ago and you responded to them 4 hours? You've already
She
put
said
your video up and stuff. It's like, girl, don't entertain these people. They block them. They shouldn't be on your page, no way, regardless of how they feel about the situation of whether something's right or wrong. I don't think that she should entertain it. I feel like for me, I just understand everybody's side. I understand the family being frustrated because to them, they're confused as to how this happened. Obviously we know how it happened, but to them, they got one version of him and they're like, it's suspicious. His death is suspicious, not just to the family, but to a lot of people.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, that was some new stuff. I understand. I don't think nobody should like accuse her of anything, but I will say when things are put out there about her, it is making people raise their eyebrow like, oh, it was your gun that was used. Oh, why did
Exactly.
you go get a defense attorney? And I'm like, yo, what? Ooh,
Mm.
this is a little, what happened? What's going on? And it's crazy because they did sign an NDA and they've been quiet this whole time. Although things are coming out now, yeah, that's because she spoke out, whatever. They're deciding to speak out, but they've been quiet this whole time since the funeral. I didn't even know a fight happened at the funeral if her daughter, when it came online and said that people were fighting at the funeral. They still didn't talk about that. Like, it's just a lot going on. But I understand everybody's emotions around this situation. I think everybody's feelings are valid. When it comes to journal entries, I do know that he is a celebrity. And I think I would expect that stuff to come out at some point. I do feel like it does seem like it's a bit soon. But I just want to know, when you talk about what's in his journal, right? And ain't no telling when he's wrote these things. This journal may be a journal he's had for 20 years. Who knows, right? I refuse to believe that he'll talk about the deepest parts of him and then also not speak about what has happened in your marriage. Okay, because every marriage ain't perfect, and let one of his friends tell it he was complaining and talked about leaving you. So if that is true and you want to help somebody, I just want to make sure, be fair to him when you release your information. Don't just put the stuff out there about him. Oh, he was SA'd and I found this out or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever. Then what about the dynamic of your marriage? Because it does seem like you may try to set yourself up to be more perfect. Like you're saying that you want to how the interview was for me, it did sound like she wants to disassociate herself from him to where people know who she is as a person outside of him, right? And
Mhm.
I understand that. But then I'm like, girl, we already know you as Twitch's wife. You really ain't even got to touch on too much of nothing of him, and just more
Yeah.
so just enter the world as Allison and just, pick up where you left off of, how I'm picking my life up after, an unexpected death the way that it happened, and how am I being a mom? Like, I do feel like it's interesting to say you want to disassociate yourself, but then you're using him at the same time to propel you forward. I don't feel like when the family and friends come along to say that, I don't think they're wrong in that when they say that. But then also, some part of me feel like it's not wrong for her to tell her damn story, even if it does include him a bit, because she did spend a good amount of her life with this man, and he left her with 2 children. So that's why I feel like I understand a bit on both sides, and I don't think that she's completely perfect in this situation. I don't think the family I is completely perfect. So I get it. I mean, I get everybody's side. I mean, it is a bit suspicious though. Like, I understand her having the family sign an NDA when he's alive, but to view somebody's body, like, and then you also condense the damn funeral down to 13 people, even though the family
Oh
wanted a
yeah.
much bigger funeral. You said no, you didn't want that because you didn't know all them folks. Don't fault you on that, BIT. I'm not even gonna hold you.
Oh, for sure.
But at the same time, it's a controllable event. So then what would be the purpose of the NDAs to be presented in the first place? And listening to that call, I think she just took advice of what was given to her. Somebody advised her, like, hey, you should have them sign this and that. And she went with her best interest because it sounds like it's something they normally do. So
So they
she
signed
just,
the NDA after he passed, right?
yeah. In
It was
order
Okay.
to
be
view his
alive.
body, yeah, in order to
Yeah.
see his body and attend the funeral, you had to sign an NDA. And in the
Mhm.
NDA, although it was phrased as though, like, oh, well, hey, listen, we don't want anything to be released out there, any photos to be floating around or anything, it was more so put in the aspect of y'all really can't discuss certain things when it comes to him. Um, and that's just what it is. Okay. If you do, you might face certain consequences. Like, don't talk about them.
We also kind of disagreed about him being called the addict, because to me, I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like saying that somebody has used drugs or they had a whole bunch of drugs doesn't necessarily make it seem like they just out here tweaking. I think there's levels to this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also feel like it could have been like, oh, I know we did shit from time to time, but what the fuck is all of this? Like, it could have been a situation like that, to where, yeah, I might have known some things, but what I
Mm.
found was still a shock to me in comparison to how I thought he got down. You know what I'm saying? With the
I
smoke.
wonder if she has more context though, in order to call him an addict. Like, I I don't know. That's the thing that makes me curious. Like, was there things leading up to his death where she felt like something was off?
I
I
think he
think that's a
might have.
great question.
Remember, I told you I think he might have stopped using everything, because people think that, oh, here's the thing. When she said he was an addict, I don't think she was saying he was an addict to say, oh, he OD'd or he was doing
Mhm.
drugs when he died. No, she was
Mhm.
saying that in his life or in a time frame before his death, he might have been doing weed or shrooms or whatever else he had, but that did not mean he was doing the drugs to the point where y'all are trying to make it seem like, oh, he's an addict. So
Mhm.
that means he must have been doing drugs to the day he died. I believe that if he was like a regular user, like, recreational user, and he decided to stop using, which is why there would be nothing in his system, it could have caused the imbalance in his hormones. And that could have been what also kind of caused him to want to unalive himself. Because sometimes when you get off drugs after being on them consistently for a while, it'll fuck your head up. And you'll kind of plummet into a depression when you don't have the things that normally help you cope. And
Yeah,
Mhm.
to
that's
keep you high.
yes, and that's what she was saying about the drugs. Like, it wasn't
Mhm.
to showcase him as some drug addict. It was to show that he was coping with something.
With something.
Yes. To me, that was the point of mentioning that. Not to make him look like he was out here tweaking, but when it came to, oh, she moved on, she in a new relationship. It's been how many years? 2 years? That's
True.
enough.
Mhm.
Yeah, 2
Enough?
years, yeah.
That's enough.
The comment that I wanted to make on this was a lot. It reminds me a lot of the stories I see online where people are like, "Black women, this is not our fight. He chose that white woman." And the thing about it is, like, it's two different ends. It's like, so often I see people say, "I don't give a fuck if you date white women." For me personally, I really don't give a fuck. I just don't want you disrespecting black women.
Mhm.
And also, when it comes to Twitch specifically, I don't. think he's had any public situations where he's um disrespected black women. So to me, it's just like, if this was a situation where she had done something wrong, I feel like people are able to vocalize that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like I more so feel this way because y'all know about the situation that boy I went to high school with, that was with
Mm-hmm.
the white girl that killed him.
Mhm.
And the topic online was always, well, he chose that white woman. And he did have tweets talking about black women in the past when he was 15 or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, I think it's just like, let's just choose a lane. If we don't give a fuck, we don't give a fuck. But I still think that those lives are to be protected in some way. Now, whether you see it as her keeping his thing secret, then that's one thing. If not, it is what it is. But overall, I think that that's something that people should, be free to speak on if they want to, if that person needs to be protected, especially when it comes to his family and friends.
Okay, and this is another thing I wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but in my world, if anybody gets to tell a story about that nigga, it's me. Like I'm the wife. I'm the one who's here every day. I'm the one that takes care of him. Like it's me. It's going to be me. Like it's not going to be anybody outside of me that's going to get first rights on anything having to do with my dead husband. Like that's wow to me that y'all are now acting like she's not the wife as it pertains to, oh, she shouldn't have done this, or like you're the wife. Like you
I
literally
agree when it comes to that.
like
Mm-hmm.
I don't get what y'all think the family that he obviously didn't really fuck with like that is supposed to have first say over her. Like I don't
Hmm.
think that's how that goes to me.
I agree. I agree. I think she should have a right to talk about things. I think my issue is when you say in an interview that he was dealing with things or whatever the case was, he put things in his personal journal that he didn't want anyone to know about, including you. That's when I do feel like, in my opinion, you kind of cross the boundaries, like with exposing that information that you didn't even know. And then now you're using his story to help other people. You don't even know if that's what he wants,
The
you know?
comment from
And he
Julian.
should have deleted it. He should have got rid of it then. He
But
knew what he
who's
was about.
thinking about that when they about to clap themselves? Like, think about this now.
You
Like,
should
who,
be
if when
thinking
somebody's about to clap, they say he ain't even think about his kids. That's the biggest thing for me.
why you
You ain't
think
even
that
think about your children to
when
be
you
thinking
have
about a journal.
when you have suicidal ideations, you think about that shit all the time before you do it. You very much think and plan before you actually go through with doing something like that a lot of the time.
But
And so
see, I
you
like that you said that actually, because if he was aware and he left it behind, maybe he left it behind for her to get better understanding of him and not for
Mm,
nobody else. You
That's
see?
that's
you
a
know,
possibility, but it's not up to him once he didn't specify or say anything. Once you've gone and it's left in their house that everything in that house belongs to her, now it
That
belongs
is
to her.
true. And
So
that
she
is
can do
true.
with it whatever she wants to, and he should have made a decision differently if he didn't want her to use that to her advantage. Because that's what she did. She used what happened to him to her advantage. But I also
mhm.
feel like, and I'm not saying everybody plans everything out, y'all. I'm not saying everybody. I am saying that when a person has suicidal ideations, you absolutely think about how it's going to be when you leave. You think about those things like, what's this gonna look like? Because I've joked with my friend about how, girl, if the text messages ever come out, like if I'm
Girl,
going
stop.
and the fucking and letting the DMs get released,
With
child.
him having with him having the suicide, let's say he did have suicidal ideations. My question now becomes also, was that also put in the journal? Today I thought about X, Y, and Z, right? So then are you
Mhm.
also going to share that part?
And we don't know yet because the whole book.
Mhm.
Which could be helpful to other people to see where his
Yeah,
mind was.
was
And that's
yeah.
another thing, y'all.
Mhm.
We've only seen interviews. Nobody has read this
Mhm.
book yet in its entirety in order to know exactly what part she used and how it was
Mhm.
said and all of that type of stuff, because it might be not as graphic or as as people suppose that it is. But
Mhm.
either way, I still feel like if you value that somebody is somebody's wife for 15 years and all of that shit, then value
Mhm.
the fact that whatever decisions they make is really up to them, whether you agree with it or not. And I do understand everybody questioning things, but the thing that happens in my mind sometimes, and I'm not underestimating nobody. That's wild that you would think that. I'm not underestimating her. I've actually said she could be this narcissistic crazy bitch that y'all talking about, but I'm just saying when the family came out talking that shit, they weren't providing anything other than her doing these interviews and coming out with a book and making the family sign an NDA. Like
People
that's
didn't even act the ass like this when Robin came out with her book about Whitney Houston. They
ooh.
wasn't even married.
Girl, I
No,
didn't
because it
even
was
know that lady came
her.
out with a book.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
That's
you
good.
what's
don't remember? She
crazy.
came. That's when everybody was like, okay, it's like the book is literally called My Life with Whitney Houston, and she talks about Whitney Houston being a whole lesbian, even though people had speculated it was never cemented anywhere until she put it in that book,
Until she
and
put it in there.
people
Mm.
didn't even act the ass about that. They didn't. I'm
Mm.
sure people disagree, but it wasn't nearly as much chatter as it is about this white lady.
I wonder if that's because people kind of already knew a little bit and she just gave them the validation that they were seeking, which is one thing. And then two, did she also include any personal writings or anything that Whitney had? Because then she's really telling her experience, which is what a lot of people are saying that Allison has a right to do. The only issue they have really is the journals. She's taking entries literally from his journals and putting it in there. And
That's a
I
good point.
feel like over time that makes sense, but I just think it's like soon because everybody isn't fully over how he passed away. I also just wanted to validate what Necey said earlier when people like to say he chose her, this is not our fight, black woman, this and that. And I'm like, I agree wholeheartedly with Necey because at the end of the day, we still can have an opinion and we still gonna have opinions regardless of who he chose, how he chose, what she looked like, what she don't look like, you
Right.
know. And I feel like if it was a black woman and this was, I feel like we'll be having the same conversation, honestly.
Exactly. It's like, has he disrespected black women? No. Okay.
No.
Then if this is somebody's life who needs to be, stood up for in some way, then speak on it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Be with who
I,
you want to be with. Just don't disrespect your people.
and I don't like the vibe of it that says that black women are supposed to accept all of this bullshit and keep it quiet. And that's why he should have been with one of us because we would have never did this.
Oh hell
But
no!
we
Did
would.
they say that?
It,
That's the like to me,
that's
that's the
that is what they
insinuation.
giving.
The
But
insinuation is that black women wouldn't handle it like that. So leave him alone because he chose a white woman that would do those types of things. Black women
Oh,
would done that. Like that's the
right.
vibe they're giving. And to
they
me, I'm
wrong
like,
for
bitch,
that.
you don't know what you would do.
Come on.
Another thing I want y'all to keep in mind when it comes to how we feel about her sharing the journals, but when you have to look at social media, this is not back in the day. Then people were living their lives on social media. I think there's a level of openness that one would have about it, and a comfortability in exploiting their life. That let's be real. There's already a level of comfortability with exploiting the things that are happening in your personal life for financial gain. And to me, once you've already been living your life like that to where your marriage and your relationship is a TikTok channel, it low key is given like what else was she supposed to do? And this is a TikTok time, like meaning was she was supposed to wait until everybody forgot about him? Like people wanted answers. People wanted to know what happened. Why did this happen? Because to me, no matter what anybody says, it's somebody that committed suicide. From what we understand, they said they investigated. They said that he committed suicide. So we're gonna go with that. Okay. Unless somebody gives me further information to prove foul play, that's what I'm going with. And that tells me that something was wrong already. So if she comes up with, oh, I read his fucking journals after he died and found out this, this, and this, and that's probably why he killed himself, then at least that puts okay, now we understand what he must have been going through, bow on it to me. But
For some people, I think you're right. But I don't think for everybody, because again, like you mentioned, we don't know the excerpts that she's going to really be using to really paint it. I feel like, and this is honestly, this is where I have to be neutral because again, you left her with this, right? But it's like with her having the journals and she's going to do this anyway, she can paint whatever picture she wants. Unfortunately, he probably wrote a whole bunch of shit in there about her ass. You know what I'm saying? Could have called her. It could have been all kind of shit in there, but she ain't gonna paint that picture, which I do feel is a bit unfair. But the response to that, and I can't really debate that, is what was unfair was him leaving her the way that he did. with them kids.
Well,
So
that you know how mad, oh my, and to me, the dual feeling
I
of
don't know.
being hurt, also thinking about the fact that my kids are gonna have to think about you leaving us in this way. Like it's like I don't know. Like it to me, that's always a hard thing to kind of grapple with. And I think that's another thing. One reasons wanting to give your kids answers to why this happened. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
I think there's a lot to think about, and you can't always handle it the way I think. Because honestly, I view social media sometimes as like vigilantes or large mobs of people that are online hanging people. Like I'm
Mhm.
just saying, like in real time, sometimes it seems like y'all really just gather y'all torches up proverbially and go to try to like just destroy people on the internet because you feel like you're screaming into an abyss instead of at an actual person. And if that lady really didn't have anything to do with that man's death and y'all have been online perpetuating that, I find that cruel under the
Agree.
Yeah.
circumstances. So that's why am kind of feeling like I wish y'all wouldn't take it there.
Mhm.
Y'all, even if y'all are mad about it, like y'all taking it all the way to that point without any real evidence of it, just based on she a white woman talking about the things that go on inside the household of a black man. Because that's what this, y'all mad about. Like, what goes on in the house stays in the house. Like that's what's really, the thing. But I get it. But to me,
Um,
nigga gone. Like,
Another thing I wanted to mention was the stepdaughter, referring to him as Steven versus dad. Um, for me, I could care less which name is used to
Me too.
me. And I understood as I watched her video why she goes in and out of dad. I think she called him dad sometimes. He allowed her to call Steven, whatever she felt comfortable with, I think worked. But I feel like when she referenced him a lot as Steven, in my opinion, is because of how he left, because
Mm.
what we learned in that video was that his stepdad also passed away by suicide. So now
Mm.
you've put me back into the same situation that you know all too well. And I feel like she went in and out of it. She was like, my dad. And then she kind of like, she would stop herself. Sometimes she'll say dad, sometimes she'll say Steven. I said, oh, she's still hurt. That's what that is. That's why she says that. And I think she has a right to be hurt.
I think that
Right.
Understanding that.
on some level, that's what I think a lot of people might be feeling off of them is like anger towards
Mm-hmm.
him. And I know, I saw somebody in the comments said that, I wouldn't call him selfish. And I'm like, I get what you're saying, because essentially one's life is their own life. Like how you gonna call somebody selfish for deciding what to do with their life. But I also feel like once you've married somebody and had kids, you've now put this investment in other people's lives to be there, and taking yourself out. What somebody said after their 9th anniversary when she thought everything was good, like that just
This is
seems,
mental health.
yeah, man. It just seems tough. It just seems like a tough situation to be in all the ways around. And I do feel like on some level the way the family responded kind of made me feel like I kind of see, why they might not be fucking with y'all. Like you recording conversations and all of that to prove that she made y'all sign the NDA when she never said that she didn't. Like she said, yeah, I had y'all
Yeah,
sign
that was the
the
best
NDA.
friend. Everybody been calling him his brother. That's not his brother. That's his best friend, Manny. Manny chose to do that. I don't know why she sat on the phone with Manny and already had an inkling that she was being set up. She
And I
said that. She's like, I know I'm probably being set up or something like
Mhm.
that. And he goes something some nah, whole time he recording this lady. Child.
That's what she said.
And he would
Uh-huh.
skip through it. Like whenever she would try to explain, he would then stop her, like stop the thing and then skip through. And I'm like, you're not even letting her fully get it out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you could tell you're having this conversation with a point of proving that she's doing something malicious. But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
like y'all were all able to go and see his body. That's what the daughter said. People felt like the daughter wasn't saying shit, but that's what she said. She said the NDA was about viewing his body. She did not stop Connie, his mom, from seeing the body. Everybody had the information to go and see the body if they wanted to, but the body was him after he had shot himself. So, it was kind of like nobody really wants to see him like that. They wanted to wait until they got him all cleaned up and everything for the funeral. And then she didn't want people showing pictures. And that's another thing. He might have been somewhat, disfigured looking in his casket. And y'all know niggas really do post their dead family members if they
I've
family
seen it.
gone
I've
crazy.
seen
They
it. I've
do.
seen it.
Shit,
I
Usher
think
did
my
that.
biggest thing is just it was already everything that a NDA would be used for, based on what she said, even though it's not what all is listed in the NDA. My biggest thing is it was controlled. Both of those things were controlled. So for me, it's like it still does not make sense. And it would make a person, if I'm a family member, in all honesty, putting myself in their shoes and I'm not understanding, I can't grasp my head around the fact of how they died. Then I'm learning details about, oh, it was your gun. Oh, I'm learning defense attorney, all of this and like all of this shit. Like some ain't adding up. Like I am gonna start looking at you sideways. Like, do you have something to do with it? Is that why you start giving us these NDAs for us to sign? Like, what the fuck is that about? So I am gonna start looking at that person sideways, especially when everything was a controlled environment. If they're going to go see somebody, a coroner will be there. If he's a high profile person, get a security person there. Okay. Make sure these people enter without any cell phone, any of that, to take picture. They can see him. And then the same thing with the funeral. If you're going to condense it to 13 people being at the funeral, like, come on, especially now I did hear this. I don't know, I can't remember where I heard it from, but they were saying that some of the family members were able to, I guess they let more people in by like a side door. Maybe those were the people that didn't sign the NDA. More people were able to enter into the funeral. But even furthermore, that's reasons why you would want to have security there. I just feel like all of it was controlled.
And then
all of it was controlled.
Another thing that was brought up in that video when he was like, but he made his own mom sign an NDA when he was alive. So why
I completely understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. Like, yeah, ain't no telling what all they're gonna be having going on when they alive, all this and that. I get that. I do feel like the stakes change when a person passes away. Okay. I don't want to be restricted to be able to see my child, someone that I have given life to. I understand. And I'm not trying to, and see, this is the thing for me. People acting like the mama trying to overstep boundaries by wanting to see her child. You're putting a piece of paper in her way. I don't want to have to sign that. Granted, if I need to, I will. But at the same time, it's like, why? I'm just trying to get to my child. I want to see my child, because at the end, no matter who you get married to, no matter how many kids you have, no matter what it is, you're always going to be that mother's child. Okay, we see that all the time. So I just feel like I would want to see that.
I'm just saying, but
well, see, I'm not gonna say his mom isn't, because whenever he's talked about her, she's been great.
He is not a good mom. I'm just saying you never know how people really are, because we do see a lot of famous people's families act funny style a little bit and do certain things sometimes that may not be in line with, like it just may not always be on the up and up. And Jami, I understand what you're talking about, and I would feel the same way about my mama, but at the same time, I don't know Twitch mama. And if Twitch already made him sign the NDA when he was alive, I have to wonder what you didn't trust. You didn't trust her on some level. That's all that says to me. Whether you alive or dead, is that on some level he did not trust her to not put shit out there. So that means in his death, as his wife, I'm gonna feel like, well, shit, if he ain't trust her, then I don't trust her neither. So make sure she find one too.
I don't think it's about trust. Honestly, I do think it's about advisement. Ultimately, I think a lot of people may move in a way that they attorneys say. It's not that you don't trust these people, but you always want to make sure. Just like she said, I just went off of what it was told, like what was advised, like who told me to do it. It was her lawyers. So,
and honestly, I think somebody instructed her to write the book.
Yes, that's what. When I heard her say that to Manny, I said, "Ooh, I think she was advised." What
she said to Manny? About
she just said she was like advised or something, like she just went off of what she was told or what she was advised she should do in that situation. So when it came to the book, I think it was the same situation. So I also think she was influenced to put the journals in there too. Granted, she's gonna have to take accountability, because people can, tell you to do stuff all day long, and then you could always say no, right? So if people feel like, oh, you were wrong for that, accountability, whatever it is. But I do think that she was advised to do that, and she went with it, because again, in my head, she wants to step out as Allison Hoker beyond the Twitch. And I personally feel like she didn't even need to include Twitch in this moment for it to be hers. She's always going to be connected to him, whether people like it or not.
People would have wanted to hear from her anyway. She could have talked about how she felt before, during, and after without
bringing up
the journals. Just like really the journals.
I feel you. But and honestly, I feel like she could have made it seem like it was just a conversation that they had, but then that
Yeah.
wouldn't be true. You know what I mean? If she found, honestly, I feel like there is something about, if you're just looking at it like a movie or a story, it's something about not knowing that shit until after somebody died that I think adds more to the story.
Yeah,
You
true.
know what I'm saying? To be completely caught off guard. Because I'm thinking about it in the Lifetime movie aspect, right? Lifetime movie aspect of this story is, oh, we had our issues. I thought everything was fine. And, this happens. And then I have to, put everything together. And one woman goes on you know what I'm saying? Like, she's looking through, she's pulling back the floorboard and finding the box. And, it's a whole thing. And I think they're trying to
True.
create a story with it, a narrative with it, and I think people find that problematic because it kind of puts him in a dim light, and then it kind of puts a spotlight on her, But I also feel like that is low key the situation that we're in. He's passed, so his light has dimmed, and now you've kind of put her in a situation where she can become famous even more so off of your death because of how it happened and who you were. Like that's just sometimes how these things happen. So I can imagine the people around her that's trying to make money off of whatever she's doing, telling her, "Oh, you found some girl, you need to go ahead and write a book. Everybody want to know what happened to that. They want to know. So you might as well go ahead and put it in your book because that's how you gonna sell it. Ain't nobody really gonna want to buy no book about you if you're not talking about him." Like I imagine that that's what somebody told her. So we could say it's not right. You know what I'm saying? And I agree with y'all if that's how y'all feel, because I wouldn't do that shit to my husband. Like I'm being real. But I also kind of feel like, you never know how you feel until you're in that situation. That's all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've been seeing some people say, they're more upset with the person that twitching. They feel like the family's upset that that person's going to be revealed. And I'm like, who's to say he even put that in the journal though? We do know she alluded to
Yeah,
that possibly happened, but we don't know if he named a person. But
right.
if you're going to tell it, then sell it all then, I guess. I mean, we here now.
Girl, we might have to go ahead and check that book out when it come out. Girl, I'm gonna have
For
to look at
real.
Audible
That's what I
and
was
see when
thinking.
it's coming out.
Okay.
So I
She
can
gonna
find
sell.
out. But I'm gonna tell
She
you
gonna
this
sell
though.
very well.
It did what it was supposed to do, because I feel like it definitely put it on my radar. I wasn't paying attention to that white lady talking about that man. Like I really wasn't paying no mind to it
That
until
is
Candace.
so true.
Until
A lot of
Candace
people
did it.
weren't. A
No,
lot of people weren't paying attention. I did a story on her last summer, I think, when she first soft launched her new man that she with.
oh,
I
not
mean,
so
it
far.
got views, but people wasn't really talking about it until now. Now they talking about it. Because now, of course, she's dating a married man, but
Oh, wait a
What?
minute. What?
Mhm.
Girl, stop. Pause. What you
She's dating a
mean?
married man. And she soft launched him, I think, in August of last year, I think it was. And the
Wait a
wife
minute.
didn't know, huh?
He's not separated. The wife didn't know.
No, so when so I believe it was in August when she first did the soft launch or whatever. Manny got in her ass about that. And I posted that a long time ago. Then I think it was in September, which was interesting. I think a few days, I can't remember the timeline, but at some point, one of his employees, no, he's white. One of the employees, so he's a tech CEO. One of
Ooh.
the employees came out and said something about, oh, hey, he sent the email out telling everybody like, yo, just want to let you guys know that I'm separated, whatever the case. I'm dating a high profile person, whatever, but not separated because the wife didn't know that, right? So the wife didn't file for a divorce until September. I think it could have been like around the 24th or something, which was interesting because 3 days later, I think it was US Weekly or People Magazine, published an article about Allison and her new boo, like just a few days after the divorce that ended up being filed. But shout out to I think it's Without a Crystal Ball on YouTube, this white chick who's been on Allison's ass for a minute. Like she really be like digging into stuff. But anywho, she learned that in December the divorce that they had has been put on hold. So the divorce between him and the wife, he got like 3 kids, I believe. He's been with that lady for I think maybe 20 years or so. She didn't know anything about this.
Wow.
Allison mentioned in a article that her kids first met him at like Universal Studios. So I was like going through her profile, like, yo, when you went to Universal Studios, you post everything about your life. I know you'll post that. Last time I saw her go to Universal Studios was in 2023. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So was you dating that lady man at that time? Because you also got up there and said that you were just so like in love. This is the, the man of your life, whatever, love of your life or whatever. Similar to Twitch. Twitch is now passed. So then now she got a new one. And I'm just like, yo, I know you weren't messing with this lady husband
No,
like
he
that.
said they
Like,
separated summer 2020. That's what you just said. He said they separated.
but it wasn't given that. It wasn't given that.
Listen, I don't put that. Listen, the way they move on, like Maya, girl,
and they done locked up all their profiles now. I do believe the wife posted something. The wife posted something, I think, with him and the kids like over the summer. And then I did read something where they said he was just talking highly about his wife on a podcast, and I haven't listened to the podcast
May
yet. That was like in April. Was it? I mean,
yeah, it said April, May
2024.
He
yes,
was.
yes.
I'm looking at it right now.
So I'm like, okay, like something ain't right. Something ain't right, girl. You about been messing with that lady man for a minute, but it ain't none of my business, girl. Go ahead and.
I mean, she probably gonna talk about that in her book too. Please don't miss it. She gonna talk about that too. She
Probably
gonna
not.
She gonna talk about that.
Not what I'm trying to step through with a new identity.
If it's already out there and she already put that man out there, she absolutely is gonna have to talk about being with him and whatever his situation is.
She should have just did a reality show. They gonna fuck around and air her ass to Salt Lake City. She's in Utah. Now I think she's from Utah. I think she's from Utah. They got a house in LA. I heard that she listed that house for sale, but I don't know if it ever sold. And now I think that she's back in Utah because they were saying something about Twitch. I gotta look that up to see if her and Twitch did buy a house out in Utah.
Looking at it's called Utah Influencer Drama.
And
where they're talking about them.
The tea.
Girl, I didn't know. Y'all know. I didn't know. I didn't know the Caucasian lady, baby.
Right? Isn't she Mormon? That's interesting because with Salt Lake City, then they kicked Miss Whitney them out the church, or Whitney them had to leave because Whitney was messing with that lady husband.
Yep, sure was. But they all do that. That's the funny part.
It's crazy.
They all be sharing spouses. As long as the men are sharing, it's fine. As soon as the women start sharing, then all of a sudden you got to get out of this church.
Not you to call this lady a hussy whore and a harlot.
Yes, whore.
No. Now y'all know they said she dated Emmanuel Acho, who was good friends with Twitch shortly after Twitch passed away.
No,
you was a whore.
They was holding hands coming out of a restaurant.
Oh,
Mr. Emmanuel Acho has been very busy out here in these streets. Did y'all get into the Fox Sports lawsuit?
When he dating whatchamacallit for a minute too?
Girl out here sticking and
from Insecure.
He's getting sticky.
Joy Taylor, huh?
Yeah, Joy Taylor.
He was a whatchamacallit too.
Who that? Oh,
Yvonne
Orgy. Is that how you say her last name?
I feel like they was engaged.
Is she still a virgin?
I hope so.
Yeah, that's what she said.
I don't know. For her, I want her to be, but then I also don't. I hope she's not.
Listen, I feel like how long you gonna wait? Like just because ain't she about 40? Like
41.
She the 40-year-old version. Oh my God. Well, as long as it's giving a life,
lying to us like scissor.
I hope she's lying. Because to me, honestly, like if you're not doing it just so you can wait to find a man to be with forever to do it, girl, you didn't give up all your wet years. You didn't gave up all of the juicy years. Bitch, we about to go through menopause. And now girl, that's her life. I want her to be happy, but I don't understand. Maybe she asexual. That's probably what it really is. You just don't want to tell us you don't want to fuck nobody. That's what it is. You asexual. That's all right, girl. Everybody different. Anyway, Wendy Williams will be on the Breakfast Club tomorrow, so we'll all be checking into that, and I'm sure Jami and I will give commentary. Yes. But that's all. That's all I got for y'all. It's late. We've been up here way longer than I wanted us to be up here. I hate that for us. But I love y'all. I appreciate y'all, and we just gonna have to talk to y'all at a different time because I gotta go to the bathroom, and
I got a headache. So
listen, so that means we're gonna get off as soon as this is over. All right, y'all. Good night.